Thank you. So yes, let me introduce our chief guest, that is Srimati Nazneen Banu, IDSE profile. So let me introduce her profile to you. She's an officer of Indian Defence Service of Engineers, that is IDSE. She is the second woman in the history of independent India to join the IDSE service under Ministry of Defence, Government of India, after qualifying through UPSC. That's wonderful. A huge round of applause to her. As the first woman officer, she successfully shouldered the responsibility of extremely challenging, important and high-pressure appointment as garrison engineer thrice in her career. During these years, she identified several stereotypes, overcome numerous challenges to successfully establish herself in a predominantly male mansion. Her remarkable professional achievements not only won her many laurels but also paved the way for more women officers to follow her suit. While serving as garrison engineer with the Eastern Naval Command of Indian Navy at Visakhapatnam from 2015 to 2017, she was closely involved with the extensive reconstruction and rehabilitation work after large-scale devastation caused due to super cyclone HUD Hudhud. The quality and time-bound completion of numerous works under her leadership were much appreciated and also paved the way for successful conduct of international field review by the Indian Navy, which saw participation from over 50 countries. In an illustration of career spanning over 20 years, she has held various important assignments, primarily discharging technical advisory and leadership roles, and dealt with large infrastructure development projects of various departments under Ministry of Defence. She has also handled important strategic projects of the Army, the Air Force, the Navy as well as DRDO while being posted at Delhi, Bangalore, Vizag and Pune. The postgraduate in electrical engineering, she holds master's degree from the prestigious Indian Institution of Science, that is IISc Bangalore. Our postgraduate research work has also been published in the reputed international journal IEEE. She is also a founder member of Defence Infrastructure Planning and Management Council of India and was also on board BVB Gandhi Centre of Science and Human Values, Bangalore, as its executive committee member from 2019 to 2021. After making immense professional contribution to strengthen India's military power, she is presently on deputation to Ministry of Culture and effectively contributing to strengthen the India's soft power as a director of National Gallery of Modern Bengaluru under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. With a huge round of applause, let's welcome her on the stage. And we are very happy, and I'm very happy to read your profile, ma'am. Such a wonderful profile. We would definitely miss it if she would have addressed the gathering without reading a profile. But it's awesome to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for reading that out, because otherwise after listening to Mr. Freedom, I was thinking I was completely out of place in this gathering, because we are not into marketing. I am from Ministry of Defence, and we are always advised to be very restrained in our social media posts. Mostly, I was long time back, maybe when I joined the service, after 2-3 years, I was there on the social media, but then I immediately withdrew because the kind of assignments that I was given. So it, you have to be very, very restrained. So listening to the social media marketing and strategies, I was thinking I'm probably at the wrong place right now, and that's how I thought it is better that my profile is read out so that there's some context to as to why I'm here. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You already heard about my professional career growth till now. So as has been mentioned, I am the second women IDSE officer in the history of independent India. And I joined the IDSE service through the UPSC, Indian Engineering Services Examination. That was way back in August 2002. I am a graduate engineer and a postgraduate from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. So when I, to tell you very frankly, when I cleared the engineering services examination, I had no idea about the various departments that we are supposed to opt for. About 10, 15 departments are listed there, and you have to give your preference of the department what you want to join. My all India rank was 32 then, and I was already pursuing MTech in the IISc Bangalore, and like any other, engineering graduate at that point of time, that was in 2000 to 2002, I thought maybe I'll go abroad or pursue some research, or maybe, computers and IT job, which was very easy from IISc. It was my father who insisted me to write this examination, because he was a conventional man, and he wanted his daughter to be in, government job. And it was just that he wanted me to be in a government job. I gave and wrote Indian Engineering Services. And to be very frank with you, I didn't have to slog much for that. I wasn't academically very bright, I would say. I was happy-go-lucky kind of a person. I wrote this exam because it's a 3-day, exam. You have to, first day you will see 100% crowd. Second day you will see 50%. By the evening you will find 25%. By third day you will hardly find any person in the examination hall. 90% of the crowd is already gone. So that's how I could sit through all the 3 days, and I wrote the paper. And after that I forgot about my Indian Engineering Services. I was happy doing MTech, and I thought I'll pick up some job in computers in a good firm and go abroad and things like that. And one fine day, because by the time you write the exams and the results are declared, it's about 7 to 8 months, those days it used to take. And when the results were declared, a couple of my friends who were pursuing MTech from civil structures in IISc, all of them declared the Indian Engineering Services. And we had a great party, and we enjoyed that party. And I didn't reveal it to anyone that I gave, and I didn't even bother to take my results by the way. And it was only after 1 week, I was sitting in the Supercomputer Education and Research Center in IISc, and I just logged into the UPSC site, and I saw, I think this number looks familiar. I was not remembering my roll number also. And I immediately called up my mom, and I said, I have written some roll number on some calendar. Can you please check and tell me what is it, And that day I got a call letter from the UPSC about my interview. So that's how I landed up with the, by design of destiny. And I'm really happy that this thing turned up my way. And since I had no idea about the departments, it was one of my seniors in IISc who was already joined Central Power Engineering Services and was working there for about 2 years. He filled up the choice of the department for me. And of course, defense, I have a natural inclination for defense because my father also was in defense, though he was in the ranks. And so I said, why not? IDSC is my first choice, and that's how I could land up at the IDSC. And my first posting also, those days, they used to give you the first posting, usually to your hometown or where you are working, so that the people join. And that's how, because I was doing MTech from IISc Bangalore, I told them that I would prefer if it is Bangalore, and I was given a posting in Bangalore. And my office was very near to the Yeshwanthpur. For 3 months I continued staying in the hostel, and I used to go to the office. Anyway, that was the story of my joining. And the day I joined, a senior officer whom I met for the first time, where I had to read the oath and give my joining reports, he said, "Oh my God, IDSC women officer." Said, "You are a rarest of the rare species in this department." And I didn't realize that, till date, it's been 2 decades of my joining, that IDSC women officers are still rare. And that sentence is so very relevant even today, 2 decades after my joining. Though the department has been in existence for quite some time, IDSC officers generally tend to serve in the Department of Military Engineer Services. Some of you may know about MES or Military Engineer Services. So that is one of the largest government construction agency under Ministry of Defence, Government of India. They provide infrastructure support primarily to the 3 arms of defence forces, that is the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, as well as the DRDO. Even the KV Sangatans are with the Military Engineer Services. And the service rule, the service, IDSC service per se has been existing since 1949. In fact, even before India gained its independence, the service was there that was controlled by the British Army, British Indian Army. After independence in 1949, like any other organized group services, the recruitment rules of IDSC were promulgated, and after the adoption of Constitution in 1950, those rules were made statutory, and the rules are very, very inclusive. There is no discrimination, there is no bar from any women officer. Unlike the uniformed services where they were very late to include the women in their fold, as a part of the IDSC service, you are there serving the nation, working closely with the armed forces, and not governed by the Army or Air Force rule, but governed by the Central Civil Services rule. Now, it's such a beautiful services. You can balance the work and life. You tend to stay mostly in the cantonments. You get good, spacious houses, and also to contribute effectively to the nation building and operational preparedness of our country. In my career spanning over 20 years, out of which last 3 years I have been with the Ministry of Culture on deputation. But before that, when I was serving in a parent department, I have worked with very, very important and strategic projects of Government of India. It was with the DRDO also. I believe one of the officers present today is from DRDO, because that lab used to be with us then, CAS, CIVILAC and GTRE, AD, and many of those labs, because that was way back. In 2003 to 2007, I was posted with the DRDO. Thereafter, I served with the Army. I was posted as the garrison engineer in Delhi. I was looking after the base hospital and the RR hospital services. After that, I was posted to Visakhapatnam post, the super cyclone Hudhud that hit the Visakhapatnam then, and it was a very challenging appointment because there was a lot of devastation that has happened. And immediately after 1 year of that Hudud, there was an international fleet review planned by the Ministry of Defense, Indian Navy, which, as was read out earlier, saw participation from over 50 countries. So it was a very high pressure appointment then. So that's how it is, and the officers of IDSC also serve on deputation to various other ministries and departments of Government of India, as well as various PSUs and autonomous organizations of the Government of India and the state government, and they serve in the senior and higher managerial positions. The purpose of giving you this backdrop is at least even one percent of you are, take this back home and encourage your daughters to join this service. The prime reason I find why such a beautiful service, such an inclusive service, and a service which offers you ample of opportunity to grow professionally as well as personally. You can balance out your work and life, your married life, or you can balance out your kids. It's because of the term military and defense. Somehow it is so insulated that people don't know. Even when I was posted in the Air Force, they were giving me a second look. Oh, women officers also come as Gs. When I joined as a G in Delhi, it was in news then. My boss rushed to the headquarters to change my posting. What have you done to me, a women officer? I mean, how is that going to happen? How is she going to tackle it? And when I took over, there's a whole lot of handling, taking over procedure in the Ministry of Defense. A lot of SOPs are laid down. And the first week when I get a call from somebody, some of the station commanders or some unit head, and they say they used to hear a lady voice. My PAC used to connect, Ji saab se baat karni hai, and they used to hear a lady voice on the other side. They immediately used to think that it's a wrong call, and they used to drop sometimes. And then again, the call, and again I will speak, and they say, Madam, Ji saab se baat karni hai. So hum Ji saab hi bol rahe ho. Acha saab aa gaye kya? Madam aa gaye kya? So there was so much of so those experience, and then always Jai Hind Sahab Ji. I used to enjoy it a lot, and probably I got used to this kind of working in a skewed environment because I picked up engineering, that too electrical engineering, which is a core engineering branch not many of the girls opt for. It is usually the electronics or computers or IT. So while doing my graduation also, we were in a class of about 45, 4 or 5 of us were there. When I came to do my MTech in IISc, again 2 of us. That one lady was a sponsored candidate from BARD, and I was a director through GATE. And then also, because there are many girls who opt for sciences and research, but not many to pursue core engineering as such. So there also it was quite, normal for me, only two ladies. And when I joined service, I was the only one in my batch. So it was kind of, I never felt out of place. It was quite normal for me. I was acclimatized right from my college days to serve and work in an environment. Probably it caused a lot of unsettlement and unrest for the people around me to adjust, to adjust to a lady being part of their workplace now. They have to behave a certain way. Their vocabulary has to drastically change. And so things like that happened. And I also remember I never realized that, I'm the second women IDSC officer till the time, as I mentioned, there was a lady who was a sponsored candidate from BART, and she was working in the same department as when I was doing my MTech, she was doing her PhD. She's a very, very senior scientist now. She's an outstanding scientist and second in command. She's a group director in BART. She also features into the STEM 75 list of women. So she called me one day and she asked me, Nazreen, please give me your profile. We are looking, they were collecting a database of all the women engineers, especially from the core branches, who have contributed to the nation building professionally. And she calls me because we are in touch right from the RISC days. And then there was a format, I didn't bother much then. Again, she kept on insisting me because they were not able to find that many women. And she says, please fill up this form and give it to me. So I gave it to her. And there was a proper committee because she's associated with a lot of national and international bodies, and she's a fellow of many prestigious institutions. So there was a proper committee which was set up, and my profile was there, which of course stood out because, as I said, I'm the second IDSC officer in the history of independent India, and also that my work, the kind of projects that I've handled with the Army, with the Air Force, and the Navy. And then she again called me and she said, my God, they were so impressed with your profile, please give a detailed write-up now, your data has been selected. It was then that I started recollecting my journey of past 20 years. Otherwise, it never even struck me that, the kind of projects that we handle, these are so secretive projects. Nobody, none of the government departments also, we never reveal the kind of projects that we handle. I've handled a lot of data centers work for the Air Force, while being posted in Delhi, a lot of underground projects, many of such projects, but it never for once happened to me that, if we go to the social media and advertise, this is the kind of job that I'm doing. I got a lot of praises from my friends and my peer group. But we have been trained that way not to advertise your work through the social media. So that's how, when I heard this lecture, I thought I'm in the wrong place. We are not supposed to advertise anything. So that was it, and now since I'm saying that I'm the second officer, you must be wondering who's the first lady officer, right? So yeah, there is a lady officer. She joined in 1989. And after a gap of 13 years, I'm the one to join, right? And of course, 89 was a different time than 2002, post-millennium, and that was more of a, she was not given that kind of appointments or opportunities that, the department trusted me with, because many crucial appointments of the garrison engineer or the field appointments, she was not given to. There could be some resistance from the department, but I never happened to meet her and discuss it about the challenges that she faced. Because most of the time she's serving outside the department. She was, I believe, member secretary of Narmada Power Development Authority. She's quite senior now, secretariat level position. And I happened to meet her only once when I was the garrison engineer at Delhi. And it was just a brief chat with an architect friend of mine who was posted at Delhi. And I never realized that the lady who was sitting in front of me actually represents an important milestone in the history of independent India, as well as the history of IDSC. Till such time when this friend of mine who's in BART told me that you sit and write what works you have handled, and then I started recollecting and realizing that what I would say I was lucky enough to be trusted with those kind of responsibilities that I could contribute to the nation building, contribute directly to the operational preparedness of our defense forces, and never to kind of hog the limelight or advertise our work that we have done so much. Now, contrast, even today the strength, if I tell you, I joined in 2002, the next officer who joined was after 5 years, and we are in 75 years of India's independence. We are going to enter 76th year now, and we don't even have 30 officers in our department. We are not even 1% of the sanctioned cadre strength. And I believe the reason for this is only the lack of public visibility of the service, the restraint, and the insulated wall of defense and military. The reason for me coming here and talking so much about this service is that it's such an excellent service that, and people hardly know about it. It's only the male members who know about it, and there are hardly any females. People must know, those of you who are pursuing engineering, or especially the core branches, civil, electrical, mechanical, they must give engineering services examination and try and opt for this service. This gives you ample of opportunity to learn, to grow, and as you know, as far as the central government is the model employer for women in terms of the policies that they have. My husband is not in a central government job. He is an IT guy at MQ. He is also a postgraduate, MTech from Computer Science and Automation from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and he works for Oracle. He hops between Oracle headquarters in San Francisco and Bangalore. But despite being in two different fields, I am a proud mother of 2 boys with 2 children. I have been able to continue my job. Not for once I realized that I had to quit, oh my God, this is weighing on me. Not at all. That is because of the women-centric policies that the central government has framed. I feel there is some little bit of hesitation in terms of implementation. There are times when you have to put your foot down and you have to take a stand that no, this is not done. But if you pursue your case, I have represented a couple of times in my career. I have also fought legal battles on posting transfers. But all of the time, I have emerged to be the winner, and my point made sense to the authorities and even to the court, and I won the cases. So I believe, there is ample of opportunity in the central government department and engineering services. Please Google IDSC. Maybe you won't find much, but IDSC is an excellent service to join. And I want that more and more people should know and join this service and contribute directly to the nation building. Now I'm into a completely different department, and I've taken a deputation to Ministry of Culture because of the family reasons, and we wanted to stay because for past 5-6 years I was in Delhi, I was in Vizag and Pune. And I thought maybe my husband said we should take posting together because both the brothers should also bond. One of them was staying with me, the elder one was with his dad. And so that's how, and the department was kind enough to give me this posting because I had already served the Air Force, the Army, as well as DRDO in Bangalore. So there was no other appointment left for me here. And so I opted for a deputation. So right now I'm in Ministry of Culture, and I'm heading the Southern National Gallery of Modern Art. That's the Southern Regional Branch. It is located on Palace Road. I share wall with the Chief Secretary, Government of Karnataka. And it's a beautiful institution. National Gallery of Modern Art is the leading showcase of modern and contemporary art in the country. Do we have any artists here or anyone from the visual arts or design background? Very nice, only one. And do you know about National Gallery of Modern Art? Yeah, have you been to AGM in Bangalore? Yeah, so have you seen me there? Okay, so NGL has got over 18,000 treasured art collection, which ranges from Rabindranath Tagore, Raja Ravi Verma, Mita Shergill, you name it and we have it, treasured collections. And we have 3 centers. One is in Delhi. That was the first one to come up, and way back in 1954. The second one to come up was in Mumbai. That was in 1996. And The last one to come up was in Bangalore, the Southern Regional Center. This opened in 2009. And we do a lot of exhibitions, national as well as international collaborations. Besides that, we do a lot of public outreach programs and educational outreach programs, specially curated events for children and mass awareness programs. But we are very, very bad at marketing because I don't believe in spending public money on paid advertisement and publicity. So I'm extremely conscious on spending in advertisement and publicity because we are not into revenue generation. We are a completely government-funded organization. We get budgeted allocation. And believe you me, government spends a whole lot of amount, whatever we ask, we get. We are located in a heritage building, which cost is huge. It's a mammoth job to maintain a heritage structure. We do a lot of programs which are completely government-sponsored, especially for the school kids, for the underprivileged children, and for the specially able children. So we work with many NGOs and all, and sponsor their trip to the National Gallery of Modern Art, which is, and we curate special programs for them also. We do a lot of performing arts programs that is in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs, ICCR, as well as many other dance, reputed and established dance groups here. So my role here, from military power, strengthening military power, to now promoting soft power of India at the national and the international level. This appointment is for 5 years. So I'm going to be there till 2024, and after that I may opt for any other department or go back and serve the military as I've been doing earlier. So I think I've stressed it enough. I mean, I wasn't, this is for the first time that I'm talking about the service, and to tell you just briefly about my journey, I come from a very humble background in Bihar. And it's a village background, and in that village, even today, the women are not allowed to venture out in daytime. It's not considered appropriate. It's that remote even today. It was only my father who realized the importance of education. And way back, that was in the 80s, he decided, no, I want my daughters to study, and that's how he could muster the courage to break away from a joint family system that used to prevail in villages those days. He was a very bright student, but he dropped out from school out of financial constraints because he had to support his family, and that's how he joined the Indian Air Force in the ranks. And one fine day he decided that, no, when I was born, that I don't want my daughters to stay in this atmosphere. And of course, for the education reasons, he took us out, and then we have been posted wherever he has been posted. We traveled with him. We learned. My schooling was completely in KV. We had no coaching or no refresher guide or tuitions because my father couldn't afford it. We were 5 of us. And but to cut the long story short, because he took a bold decision that time to break away from the traditional system and realize the importance of education. And he motivated us. He couldn't, as I said, the financial situation was not that good at that point of time. But we had all the privileges in terms of the schooling in Kendriya Vidyalayas or subsidized kind of. I got scholarship when I joined my engineering. My dad hardly had to spend even a single penny on my engineering course. When I came out, I had no book at all because everything I used to get from the college, because throughout I was a distinction holder. I had to buy the book to give GATE examination. I had nothing as such, So, if you intend something good, I think the whole of the universe conspires. And it's not so that I'm the only one who has done well. All of we are 4 sisters. And believe me, all of them are doing extremely well in diverse fields. My elder sister is in medicine, I'm in engineering. There's one in finance, there's one in legal. And they run huge companies, legal consultancy firms. 2 of my sisters were declared to me. So that is one part of it. And then of course, when I joined the service, the central government policies are extremely inclusive and extremely encouraging. That's again one reason why I could continue to contribute. And thirdly, when you get married, it's the support of your spouse that counts the most, and it's the constant adjustment and encouragement from my spouse that I've been able to contribute, substantially and meaningfully to whatever organization I serve. I think I've taken enough of time, and so with this, I would like to I make sense and I'm able to inspire even an iota of the audience who's present here or who would be listening to a portion of my talk on social media, if at all. I think every bit of effort that has gone into organizing this program would have been worth it. You are all fortunate enough, you are all achievers, but we are in the 75th year of India's independence, we are entering 76th. We all know that all these women, we are still not a norm in India, we are still an exception. So as we enter Amrit Kal, as our leaders have said, we are entering Amrit Kal, it's an important milestone in the history of independent India another 25 years. I would like to see at least 25% of IDSC women officers in our service. And of course, I would like to see that this women achievers becomes a norm and not an exception to be celebrated in close gatherings like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We request you to please stay back, ma'am. Ma'am, I request you to please